thinking of Baptist or Congregational or Evangelical churches, I've been disturbed for a long time by the way some men become pastors or elders or ministers in churches, and they don't seem to go in through the proper channels, the proper way in. On one of the Facebook groups I joined, somebody asked this question. I have a very serious question, which I hope will not offend anybody here. What are the qualifications to become a pastor? Well, there are qualities which the Bible sets out as required in any Christian ministers. But this video is not about them. This is only about the practice in Baptist churches as I have experienced it. These practices apply among Baptist and many independent evangelical churches and in congregational circles as well. And I would say there are two calls, the inward call and the outward call, and I believe both are necessary. The inward call develops in your own heart and mind. You get a sense of calling, an urge or compulsion to preach or to build up the flock of God. Here you see me in 1966 taking part in an open-air meeting, and on the right you see me taking part in an open-air meeting in 1970. The sense in my heart of compulsion to preach was already developing. Now, the outward call may begin before the inward, or at the same time, or after. As regards the outward call, people might observe your Christian service and say things like, "You should offer yourself for the ministry." I believe those are the exact words that were spoken to me one day after I had preached. Openings to serve will come. God will open up the way. And your involvement will be noticed by other people in the churches. House meetings, children's work, youth work, women's meetings, midweek meetings, Bible studies. There may be opportunities to preach at Sunday services. And so at some point your inward sense of call and other people's growing approval of your gifts will come together. They will coalesce. The confirmation of your call must be given by the local church with which you are in membership. Now, that is an indispensable Baptist principle. You must be recognized by the church with which you are in membership as a man called to the ministry. Here you see the Strict Baptist Chapel in Borough Green in Kent. That is where my call was formally confirmed, and from that church my accreditation as a minister was made known to other churches in the denomination. And so here you see ministers of the gospel recognized as such by the Strict Baptist churches with which they are in membership. The local church will confirm your call formally at a meeting of the members and will make their decision known to other churches. There might be a list, a magazine, personal or denominational contacts, which will make this more widely known. So at that point you have become a minister, but not the pastor of one church. As a formally recognised minister, you will then begin to circulate among the churches, taking Sunday services, other meetings, other services, and once I'd been recognised as a minister, here are Baptist chapels where I preached at: Ryosh, Hadlow, Manor Park, Horsham, Mepham, Sutton-at-Hone, Wandsworth, Brentford, Stratford, Ashford, and of course there were chapels of other denominations as well where I went preaching. So, in your heart you feel that you would like to be pastor of one church and to lead it forward. You might make it known that you're hoping for a pastorate. You might wait for someone else to suggest it. That can be made known then among the churches by word of mouth or through more formal channels. So as you go around the churches, gradually an affection or affinity will grow up between you and one congregation. You start to feel you'd like to be their pastor, and they start to feel that they would like you to be. After a while, as that feeling has grown within them, they will hold a formal meeting of members and decide to invite you, probably for a number of Sundays, probably to spend some time getting to know members in their homes. It was by that kind of means that the call came to me, first of all, to be pastor at Hadlow on the left, and then later on to be pastor at Thigh on the right. Now, my personal view is that being a minister in a genuine Christian denomination makes you a Christian minister, and that accreditation, recognition, ordination, whatever you want to call it, I think should be valid among other denominations. And Baptist ministers often become pastors of congregational or independent evangelical churches, and vice versa. What about formal theological study or training? Well, there is no formal requirement, although some churches will probably, I would say almost certainly, look for it in a man whom they're considering to be their pastor. Personally, I studied theology by correspondence, and I took the appropriate examinations with London Bible College. Now, of course, the question arises, can the Baptist system go wrong? And of course it can, as any system operated by imperfect human beings can and often does. And let's be honest, it's often for reasons of personality. People clash, or people are ambitious. The wrong man can get in, the right man can be kept out. But the system does preserve the autonomy of the local church, and that is an indispensable, important, vital, permanent Baptist principle. In my view, any church, whatever it calls itself, if it is not preserving the autonomy of the local church, it is not Baptist, even if it calls itself that. So, what I have described is the door into the Baptist ministry as I have experienced it. I said earlier that I was troubled by people who seem to go in some other way, almost to force their way in. Listen to some words of Jesus. I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. You must enter by the door. And if we're going to think about other denominations, they have their own system, their own correct doorway into the ministry. We should look very suspiciously at someone who climbs in by another way. So that is the door as I understand it, and I fear that some men climb in by another way. In case you're wondering what on earth a Baptist church is anyway, there is another video which answers that question for you. And here is my website, and it has a wide range of reading, viewing, and listening on Christian topics by me and by others. Visit the website, and I hope you're blessed.